I'm Georgina Godwin. This is Monocle on Saturday, a gorgeous sunny Saturday, and we are broadcasting to you live from our courtyard here at Midori House in London for the Monocle Spring Market with Visit Portugal. In the background you can hear the birds singing and the slight buzz of everybody setting up for the market, which begins in a couple of hours' time. Now, on today's programme, we look through the week's news and culture with the political risk analyst and author Charles Hecker. Plus,
we wanted to create a place that we felt was missing in the city, which was a place where people from all languages, all walks of life could connect through literature and good coffee and good wine and good company.
We hear from the founders of Lisbon's award-winning independent bookshop Good Company. And then Celina Tavares, who is UK Director for Visit Portugal, will tell us all about Monocle's Spring Market, which is on today. That's all ahead here on Monocle on Saturday with me, Georgina Godwin. And don't forget, if you are in Marylebone, do come and join us. Now, here's the news. Tensions continue to escalate between India and Pakistan as the latter launched attacks early this morning on multiple bases, including a missile storage site in northern India. On Friday, the group of 7 major countries encouraged the nations to engage in direct dialogue as hostilities rise between the nuclear-armed neighbours, while the US government said it's offered assistance in starting constructive talks. South Korea's Conservatives dropped their presidential candidate today and reopened the nomination process as the former Prime Minister joined the party to challenge the Liberal frontrunner in an election just 4 weeks away. The People Power Party said its members decided to cancel the nomination of Kim Moon-soo as it struggles to reach a consensus on a single candidate for the snap June the 3rd presidential vote. And a US federal judge has ruled that President Donald Trump's administration must temporarily halt its sweeping government overhaul because Congress did not authorise it to carry out large-scale staffing cuts and the restructuring of agencies. The ruling is the broadest of its kind against the government overhaul that's been led by Elon Musk, the world's richest person, who runs the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which is now facing dozens of lawsuits. And that's your Monocle Radio News. Well, isn't this nice? We are sitting here in the Midori House courtyard, and around us there is a buzz as everybody's setting up for our spring market in conjunction with Visit Portugal. It is a lovely, lovely sunny day. You can hear the birds singing in the background, and right next to me is my friend and colleague Charles Hecker. He's a political risk analyst. He's also the author of Zero Sum, the Arc of International Business in Russia. Charles, isn't this fun not to be in the studio?
Good morning, Georgina. What a refreshing change to be outdoors. We've brought all the technology into the sunshine. The breeze is blowing and the sun is out, and it's a refreshing change of pace from the studio indoors.
It's just so lovely, and we're really, really hoping to meet some listeners later on today. So the market will officially open to the public at 10, so that's in an hour. And we'll be here, I guess, all day. Carlotta Rebello will be taking over from me this afternoon, so you can have a chat to her then. But in the meantime, I would love to meet you if you're in the area. Now, Charles, I mentioned your book, Zero Sum, The Art of International Business in Russia, and of course, Russia is your area of expertise. And all eyes were on Russia yesterday because it was their victory parade. Tell us, just give us the context of the parade first.
That's right, Georgina. This is an annual event that is a remarkable display of military hardware parading across Red Square. And it's interesting, when you see these images on television, Red Square looks immeasurably vast. And there are tanks, and there are missiles, and there's all sorts of military might on display. What's funny is that when you bring people to Moscow and you walk across Red Square, the first thing that most people tell you is that it looks much smaller than it is on television. But here yesterday was Moscow's 80th celebration of Victory in Europe Day, which of course commemorates the Soviet Union's victory against Nazi Germany in World War II, or what is called the Great Patriotic War in Russian. And so this was a particularly chunky festival because it was the 80th anniversary. And in the reviewing stand, watching soldiers, generals, and all of this hardware parade past, was Xi Jinping, an enormously symbolic presence and gesture from China to Russia. Xi Jinping came not only for the victory parade, but actually stayed longer than anticipated for a series of meetings that lasted, we think are still going on, in Moscow before heading back to China.
And I mean, this is tremendously significant because it is, firstly, a big statement to the world to say Russia and China are really in this together. They are challenging the liberal, normal way of doing things, and they've gone as far as to actually spell that out.
That's right. And in fact, Xi Jinping was wearing a St. George's ribbon on his jacket lapel. That is, of course, a symbol of support for the Russian army. In political circles, there's a lot of conversation these days about Washington trying to pull what's being called a reverse Kissinger on Russia. And that is that American diplomacy is believed to be aimed at separating Russia and China and drawing Russia back into a Western-oriented orbit. And I think that Xi Jinping's visit and the fact that he was next to Putin had place of pride and honor on the mausoleum, Lenin's mausoleum overviewing Red Square, puts the lie to all of that there will be no separating of Russia and China politically and geopolitically, and that anyone who thinks that this tandem, unsteady and unequal though it may be, that anyone who thinks that it can be pulled apart is probably wasting their time.
Now, there was meant to be a ceasefire, and of course I was very surprised by the amount of Russian soldiers on display. I was thinking, well, where are they? Who's on the front line?
Well, that's right. This is all very, very intentional. There's communication on a number of levels going on during parades like this. The first is to show the West, and particularly Donald Trump, that Russia is not afraid of militarization. You're absolutely right to point out that there is a labor shortage in the Russian army, and there were an awful lot of uniformed officers and soldiers on parade. But this is a signal to the West that militarization is the way forward. There's also a domestic signaling to Russians saying that this military effort in Ukraine is valorous, and that if you contribute to it, if you are recruited, this is how your nation will memorialize you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all fascinating, and that message, as you say, reverberating around the world. The guest list itself was very interesting, led by Xi Jinping. Obviously, he was the guest of honor. Last year, I think there was something like 9 heads of state there. This year, it was 29, but largely from places that geopolitically don't have that much clout.
That's right. The deep irony of the guest list for the celebrations this year was, that all of the Soviet Union's allies in World War II were absent from the celebration. And so the podium was filled with visitors more from the global south, from non-aligned countries. Lula da Silva was there from Brazil, showing a little bit of support for Russia, and I think sending a message that it should not be automatically assumed that Brazil, the largest economy in Latin America, will automatically ally with the United States, its partner to the north. I think there was only the Prime Minister, I believe, of Slovakia was one of the only European figures present.
And of course, that's causing ructions within the EU. Any presence from India and Pakistan?
I don't believe, off the top of my head, I shouldn't say.
I don't think the leaders themselves were there. And that, of course, because they're very, very busy at home. Now, this has all just ratcheted up again. Even overnight, Pakistan has been attacking military bases in northern India. There was a very odd news release early this morning where the Pakistani army said we've launched these attacks, but also the Pakistani nuclear group is meeting very, very soon after the Pakistani government issued a statement saying we are absolutely not meeting. So that does show some willingness from the Pakistani side to draw back. Islamabad is not keen, it would appear, to be drawn into any kind of nuclear conflict.
That's right. So the heads of India and Pakistan are far too busy aiming missiles at each other to be watching missiles go down the street in Red Square. And of course, you're right to point out, Georgina, that the primary area of concern here is that this is two nuclear-tipped nations confronting each other. By the way, there are also 2 points of a nuclear triangle in that neighborhood that includes China. We've had an escalation in violence and in the conflict with retaliation from Pakistan. And according to the very latest reports, apparently both countries are preparing to roll out, the sort of expensive kit and the high-tech equipment, fighter jets, longer range missiles, and the expensive stuff is coming out. The United States has offered its services as a mediator. Of course, J.D. Vance, the vice president, was in India not too long ago on an official visit. Saudi Arabia is seeking to mediate the conflict. Pakistan is not a signatory to the non-first use treaty for countries that have nuclear arsenals. India is a signatory to that treaty. So you can imagine the sense of imbalance in the arsenals and the willingness to use them on those two sides of the border. This conflict clearly has a lot longer to run.
Yeah, absolutely. And very worrying. A lot of people in America, of course, saying that they're happy to facilitate dialogue. You've got the G7 saying this really, really needs to calm down. Now, another country that has had nuclear weapons, certainly in the past, is South Africa.
That's right. And South Africa is freshly in the news as 54 white South Africans prepare to be received by the United States as refugees from South Africa. This can't be much more than a political ploy and a symbolic gesture engineered by none other than Elon Musk, the United States' most prominent South African resident. And the Trump administration is planning on escorting these 54 white South African quote-unquote refugees. They are getting the red carpet treatment when they arrive. They will be given all sorts of assistance in resettlement. And I guess what stands out the most about this is, in a country that is doing everything it can to prevent migration to the United States across its borders, here is an open embrace of a group of people from South Africa.
Now, Trump has described Afrikaners as victims of racial discrimination in his executive order, which opened up the prospect for them to resettle in the US. This is largely in response to farm attacks in South Africa, which I have to say, from my perspective, would appear to me completely criminal and economic based. This is not farms been taken on racial basis as happened in their neighbours. Zimbabwe. This is criminal. And the fact is that obviously under apartheid, white South Africans enjoyed a much, much higher level of privilege. Now, of course, that's all stopped. Those who can carry on having jobs. Those who can't suddenly are not getting privilege by the dint of the colour of their skin, and there's a lot of shouting about that. But what's really interesting is that on Friday, South Africa's foreign ministry described this move as politically motivated and designed to undermine South Africa's constitutional democracy. And even some organisations representing Afrikaners and Afrikaans farmers have said that this is a very, very bad idea.
That's right. This is another example of a Trump administration policy sort of disrupting a domestic policy environment. We've seen that happen in Canada. We've seen it happen in Australia. We've seen it happen across Europe, where actions taken in Washington are, I suppose, specifically designed as political disruptors abroad. And, this is for the American audience that's not privileged to the sort of on-the-ground nuances that you're able to provide, Georgina. This is being portrayed as white people are being put upon and oppressed in other countries. We are here to protect the interests of white people like us, people who look like the Trump administration largely. And, we're told by the Western press here that the South Africans who do arrive are going to get housing, home furnishing, essential household items, groceries, weather-appropriate clothing, diapers, formula, hygiene products, and prepaid mobile phones. You couldn't draw a more stark contrast to the treatment of these 54 individuals arriving from South Africa to the way that the United States is treating the rest of people, some of whom are coming from genuine, areas of countries of repression and civil war, who don't get any of the treatment that you're seeing here.
And it plays into Donald Trump's wider policy of rolling back DEI, doesn't it? The latest victim of that is Dr. Carla Hayden. She's the Librarian of Congress. She was the first Black American and first woman in that position. I think she was given a 2-line email telling her she had to leave.
That's right. One fine day at work just a couple of days ago, Dr. Carla Hayden opens her email and she sees a 2-sentence message saying, "Thank you for your service, but it's no longer required." And she has been terminated. What's interesting is that when questions were posed to the Trump administration and to Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she said that she was against that they fired Dr. Hayden because she promoted DE&I at the library, and also they accused her and they criticized the choice of books that she was putting, quote unquote, on the shelves of the Library of Congress. What the Trump administration has overlooked in this instance is that the Library of Congress is a national repository library, and that is every book that is published in the United States, and in many cases books that are published elsewhere around the world, are required to be deposited on the shelves of the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress has more than 170 million items in its collection. Somebody is bound to find one or two of those objectionable, but that's essentially beside the point. The job of the Library of Congress is to store everything that is published in the United States and beyond.
And of course, we're told that federal employees are now being ordered to have a look at libraries and remove books that don't align with the Trump administration's worldview. Let's carry on talking about books, because as part of Monocle's May issue, we gave away 50 design awards. For Best Bookshop, the winner was Good Company in Lisbon. Well, Monocle's senior correspondent, Fernando Augusto Pacheco, spoke to the founders Samuel Miller and Giovanni Centeno about their bookshop.
We wanted to create a place that we felt was missing in the city, which was a third space, was a place where people from all languages, all walks of life could connect through literature and good coffee and good wine and good company. And so, we just wanted to really build roots there. In Lisbon, I think, is the perfect city to build roots in. Portugal is a very welcoming culture, welcoming to families. I often refer to one of the booksellers in my town, my city, Belém, Deborah, and I say that she raised me because she truly did. She saw me as a very small child up until very recently, when she unfortunately had to close her bookstore. But she was one of the fundamental people in my life to try to give me books that I think expanded my worldview, built me as a reader. And so I always understood the importance of bookselling in a community. The bookseller is very much, I would say, a tastemaker and also a beacon. Bookselling can connect people to different ideas, to what's happening around the world. And I think when it comes to the publishing industry, it's not often talked about that booksellers are really the unsung heroes, At first, I don't think it was going to be my career, but it's such a perfect fit for me.
And Samuel, for those, I love Lisbon, so I will be paying a visit to your shop very soon. I wonder if you could give us a sense of the space, because from what I can see in pictures, it looks very cozy. I mean, you've mentioned there is a cafe, there is a wine bar for later. But tell us perhaps a bit more about the location, about the space itself.
Yeah, so the space was absolutely a top priority for us when we were putting this together. We didn't just want to have some bookshelves and a chair. We invested heavily in the design and the materials. We worked with Studio Pim, which is a local design studio, done quite a few restaurants and commercial spaces in the city. We're located in Campo Pequeno. So over half of our customers, I would say at this point, are locals and regulars, and about 50% are Portuguese as well, which is really, really special for us and something we've really worked hard to maintain and build.
And that's very special because, Portugal is going through so much change. And some people saying, but what about the locals as well? So it's good that has been mentioned. What about, it is kind of an English bookstore as well, which I think perhaps that Lisbon needed that because, as I said, it's becoming quite international. So tell us a bit more about the selection of the titles you're having. How do you decide? Are there any local authors as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We have local authors. We are an English bookstore. We only sell books in English. But one thing that I specifically always wanted in our curation was to have Lusophone authors, not only Portuguese, but from Africa, from Brazil, from Macau, Goa. And so it was always very important to me to make this connection, this cultural connection, because English bookstores, and I think specifically now in the way that Lisbon is growing as a city, as a cosmopolitan city, can be seen as something that is not made for locals, but that's really not the case. But in terms of the Lusophone authors and local authors, definitely, we are trying to partner more and more with contemporary local authors, people who are up and coming and craving this connection with a wide range of readers and maybe trying to get more translations out there. We are building our events calendar, very, very focused on that. And we've had quite a few poetry sessions, which have been wonderful.
The bookstores here are quite a bit different, and I really fell in love with the small it's much more romantic here. I think it's cute corner bookstores with as an individual bookseller who can actually talk to you one-on-one, and it's just a much more romantic sort of setup. And so this idea of having a bookstore has been something that we've been talking about for years now. So in my role in Good Company is a lot of the day-to-day running of the space, and then the coffee and wine, the bar really is my half of the business.
An important half, I would say.
Yes, extremely important.
Especially Portugal and wine. I think that's always a good idea.
Yeah, and we only have Portuguese wines. We were very, very adamant about that. We serve local coffee and local wines.
Do you sell magazines as well? Is it mainly books?
No, we don't sell magazines at the moment. We are only selling books. We did have a partnership with a local magazine that is also a publisher called Fita, Friends in the Arts.
Amazing.
They do one publication a year. It's a very wonderful, very thick. It looks like a book, basically. But we are trying to expand to magazines. We certainly have Monocle books in there.
And that was Giovanni Centeno, along with Samuel Miller, the founders of Lisbon-based bookshop Good Company, in conversation with Monocle's Fernando Augusto Pacheco. Well, let's stay in Portugal because it's so exciting. The Monocle Spring Market with Visit Portugal opens the doors to the public in 48 minutes exactly. So if you're in Malvern, do come down because we would absolutely love to meet you. And I am now thrilled to meet the UK director for Visit Portugal, who is Celina Tavares. She's here to tell us all about the Monocle Spring Market with Visit Portugal. Celina, welcome.
Bom dia, good morning. How are you guys? How is everyone?
We are very, very happy to be here with you on this lovely sunny day. Isn't it gorgeous?
I know, we even brought the weather. Can you believe it?
Thank you very much for the Portuguese weather. Now, tell me about Visit Portugal. You exist really to encourage tourism, but you're not talking here just about getting mass market tourism, and you're looking at lots of subtle ways to promote your beautiful country.
No, absolutely. I mean, on our end, what we're trying to do as a National Tourism Board is to bring more awareness to the authenticity of the destination and to the immersive experiences we have to offer as Visit Portugal and as Portugal as a destination. And also raise awareness about lesser known destinations in Portugal, such as Alentejo, the Azores, center of Portugal, the northern part of the country also. There's so much more to explore besides, the sun and seeing the destination, although, of course, that's a massive reason to visit Portugal, especially for the UK clients. But yes, it's really to raise awareness about other areas of Portugal, and also other products and other activities that you can do related to ceramics. Workshops in bread workshops, basket woven workshops, everything that you can do that is a bit different from people are normally used to when they're visiting the destination.
Yeah, so much artisanal talent, and we'll come back to that. You were talking about promoting lesser known regions, and that's really to try and balance tourist flows across the country, but it's also about helping to preserve cultural and environmental integrity.
Yes, absolutely. Sustainability is one of our top goals as a destination to ensure that we preserve Portuguese traditions, even if we modernize them also in some way. And the brands that are present here today at the Monocle market and Portuguese market are a great example of that. Útil, Klaus Porto, Vida Portuguesa, Quinta da Morica. So they're a great representation of what these brands are doing to modernize themselves, but at the same time keep up these Portuguese traditions and traditional handcrafts.
I mean, I'd like to know a little bit more about the brands that people can actually come and buy from, experience and see and meet today. I mean, I think that's part of it too, talking to the actual producers, getting to know the faces behind these products, which are in most cases really lovingly handmade. We have a Portuguese menswear brand, we have a brand that creates soaps, colognes, scented candles. We've also got Portugal's oldest home linen brand. Tell us about some of these people we can meet today.
Yes, I mean, I was just having a chat with Casa Cubista, and they were chatting with us about the lady that produces their hand towels, the linen hand towels. So it's this old lady, she's the only one producing them at the moment. So there's always this story behind all of these brands. So our goal today was to bring a bit of Portugal and a bit of Portuguese products to London, especially design ceramics, rugs, linens, olive oil, wines. So a bit of a tasting of across the sectors, let's say. But these are all brands that are also striving to bring out the best that Portugal is producing, and especially in these segments.
Well, let's talk specifically about today and the F&B, the food and beverage offering, because of course people, as well as experiencing the brands, being able to buy Portuguese goods, can taste and take delicious things to eat and drink home. Now we're sitting here outside in the courtyard and we're right next to the Bar Douro stand. They haven't set up yet. I cannot wait for them to unveil that, because I want to. What is the special, the white port drink?
The white port drink, I believe it's Porto tonic. I'm sorry.
That's it, Porto tonic. I'd forgotten for a minute.
I was translating from Portuguese in my head. I'm sorry. Yes.
But I believe as soon as Bar Douro opens, that's what will be funneled straight to the.
Yes. I think all of us, But the weather is calling for it also, for just a refreshing drink, and some Portuguese food. We're going to have a sample of various dishes from Portugal today. So join us, of course, pastéis de nata, the Portuguese custard tarts that we're so famous for, and Portuguese coffee and Portuguese tea also. We're the only destination in Europe producing tea in the Azores, so we'll have a sample of that here also today. Join us. The weather is fabulous, sunny day, but what's there to complement it? Portuguese food and wine.
Absolutely, and a chance to visit Portugal for free. Tell us about your prize draw.
Yes, so the prize draw is flights with TAP Air Portugal, kindly sponsored by TAP Air Portugal, which we appreciate, and also stay in São Lourenço de Barrocal, a hotel property, a 5-star hotel property in the Alentejo area. Also here, calling to what we were mentioning before about generating awareness about other destinations in Portugal. It's a fabulous property, very typically Portuguese and very typically from the Alentejo area. And just another reason to come and visit us.
Yeah, well, let me tell you how that works. So when you get to Midori House, and let me explain how to get there. So we're very near Baker Street Station and also Bond Street, between sort of Oxford Street and Baker Street. Metropolitan line down today, let me just tell you, but you can get here on the Jubilee line and many others, Bakerloo and so on. We are on the corner of Manchester and Dorset Street, and you come through a tunnel, and once you get to the entrance, just scan the barcode, the QR code at the entrance, and you'll be automatically entered into this draw. And then, of course, you come in here, and we are all over the courtyard. If you look to your right when you come in, you'll see us broadcasting live from this session next to Bar Douro. The whole courtyard is full of bunting, full of people, full of buzz, and then you can go right into our building, and there's more stands in there, more chances to explore Portugal. And just before we go, Celina, I just want to talk a little bit about the partnership between Visit Portugal and Monocle, because we have a lot of loyal readers and listeners in Portugal, and we just really wanted to flag up the fact that this is a very solid friendship.
Yes, a very solid friendship. We're always keen in partnering with Monocle, especially or with occasions like this one, where we can bring a bit of Portugal to the different markets we are operating in, especially in London, and we're doing also another event in Switzerland. So yes, it's very important for us. It creates a great platform also for Portuguese companies that do have products or some sort of representation also in these countries, so to generate some awareness for them also, and to incentivize everyone to also travel to Portugal, discover more about the country. So it's a great platform for us also as a destination, which we appreciate.
Exactly, and as you say, there is an event going on at Dorferstrasse 90 in a couple of weeks' time. So if you're not in London today, but you will be in Switzerland, then do go along to that. But meanwhile, if you are here, please come down. I'd love to meet you. Sometimes you sit in the studio and you feel like you're talking into a void. And often when I go out there and actually meet listeners, it just makes it all so much more real. It's wonderful to actually get to meet the people that listen to our station. And we would really love to have conversations with you today. So do come down. As I say, it's Midori House. It's on Dorset Street, number 1 Dorset Street. And we have our fantastic market going on here today. And it is the Monocle Spring Market with Visit Portugal. And with that, it's time for us to go. But I want to thank Celina Tavares very much and Visit Portugal for being here. Also, my guest, Charles Hecker, our studio engineers, Mariella Bevan and Steph Chungu, and of course, you, the listeners. Monocle on Saturday will return next weekend with Carlotta Rebello. Carlotta will also be here this afternoon because between the two of us, we are broadcasting live from Midori House all day. I'm Georgina Godwin. Thank you for listening.